God will bless you on this journey. You've heard people saying this, but do you believe it? Maybe you've started to taste the blessings that come when you retain your seed. Maybe you've started to experience what it's like to have everything start to fall into place for you. It's real. You're accessing the highest timeline, you could say. You're stepping into your destiny. Today I experienced something which confirmed everything for me. If you've watched my early videos, the very first video I made on semen retention, I told you about what got me onto this practice. What actually got me to start practicing God mode about 4 months ago. I was living overseas. I'd gotten tired of my work situation, wasn't happy. And so the woman I was with at the time, who I was very happy with, agreed to move to Bali with me. And so we started making plans to go to Bali. I was going to create a coaching business, which I've done before. And I decided to move over there without her early so that I could set things up, have it all prepared so that she could come and join me later. While I was there, my lust, this demon that I'd been carrying inside that I hadn't dealt with, I hadn't let go of, it started to emerge. It started to tell me all these stories that I wasn't enough. I needed to prove myself to myself. And what's the best way to do that? We think, as men, in our deluded state, we think that if we can attract a hot woman, a beautiful woman, if we can pull a woman at will, we then tell ourselves that this makes us worthy. We tell ourselves that this is the benchmark of what it means to be a man. And this lie that we tell ourselves gets us into a lot of trouble. It leads us down a path where we are no longer living from our center, but we're living from reaction. We're actually reacting to the outside world. We're not leading the outside world. And so for me, I ended up getting with this woman, and I told my girlfriend about it. And from that point, things were spiritually finished at that point, because I had demonstrated to my woman that she wasn't enough, basically. That's what my actions demonstrated to her. And when I realized that she didn't want to be with me anymore, I spiraled into the deepest hell that I've ever been in. So all this time you've seen me making videos over the last few months. Making these videos has been like a lifeline for me because I've been going through hell. And you've seen little bits of that, but you haven't seen the full extent. So the reality is I sabotaged something very beautiful, something that I'd always wanted. A very deep, profound connection with a woman, a spiritual connection. I basically threw it in the bin because I let lust control my mind. So when that happened, when we split, that's when I started, actually before that, before we even split, I knew it was time for me to change. I knew that I couldn't let lust control me anymore. That's when I started God mode. And so over these last months, I've been practicing just observing the lust, refusing to get pulled into that matrix of lusting over women, staring at women, looking at corn, having sexual fantasies, just cutting all of that off at the root. And what I found as I go further and further and further is that it's not about the lust, strictly speaking. The lust is just a symptom of the deeper issue. The deeper issue is that we feel inadequate. We feel like we're not enough as men. And so we seek this validation through sex. We seek this validation through having women be attracted to us. We do everything we can to become more wealthy, become more jacked, become more charismatic, be funnier, demonstrate all of those high-level male characteristics in hope that we can have women want us so that we feel like we're enough. And you know what kind of frustrates me is seeing guys brush this off. And I've been one of these guys. Seeing guys brush this whole thing off, what I'm talking about right now, and say, oh yeah, man, you just gotta focus on you. You just gotta be about your purpose, which is true. It's very true. But I see a lot of dudes in denial, if I'm being real. I see a lot of dudes who have closed their heart to love. I was one of them. And they become so enrolled in this ideology that you got to be a man going his own way. You got to be completely focused on you. If she's not coming along for the ride, then she's not for you. Like all of this kind of rhetoric. And what I see is a lot of dudes becoming hardened and arrogant to the point where they're not willing to be vulnerable with a woman. And in their mind, they're being very masculine, but in reality, they're being cowards. Because masculinity isn't about running away from hard things. And what is harder than opening your heart? And a lot of guys who are kind of entrenched in this way of thinking will see what I'm saying now and just assume that I'm a beta male and I'm a nice guy and I'm putting women on a pedestal. And I hear what you're saying. I really hear what you're saying, because I've thought like that myself. But over these past few months, I've had a realization, which is that the highest form of masculinity is in letting go of yourself. And it's a paradox, because you can't let go of yourself to the point where you're not showing up for your woman, for your family, your future family, your existing family. You can't let go of yourself to this point where you're not fulfilling your duty, you're not fulfilling your role as a provider, as a protector. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is you're letting go of your need to be right, of your need to be important. You're letting go of your need to have control in your relationship. You're letting go of the need to have things go your way. It's a very subtle difference we're talking about here. And one of the defining moments for me, again, if I'm being real, was when my dad, who has been married now for over 30 years, who's a very masculine man, he said to me, you know, a lot of men think that being humble and admitting when you're wrong and doing things to please your wife, a lot of men think that is being a doormat. A lot of men think that's being weak. But the reality is, it takes a lot of backbone. It takes a lot of strength. It takes the highest form of masculinity to be willing to sacrifice yourself, not in the sense of falling short of your duties, your responsibilities as a provider, as a protector, as a leader of your family, but sacrificing your own desires and putting your family ahead of yourself. That takes everything you have as a man. And when I saw that, when I heard my dad say that, and I let myself absorb that, I realized that it was true. I realized how selfish I'd been, how self-focused I'd been in wanting this approval from women, wanting to be special in the eyes of women in general, to give my ego this feeling of importance. That's the root of lust. And it's the same thing that we see in money. When we chase money, it's the same basic desire that we're looking to fulfill. This desire to have control, to be powerful, to feel like we have control, to feel secure. That's what's at the root of it. So I started to let that go. And the more I've let it go, the better everything's getting. Today I went and had breakfast with my woman, who didn't speak to me for almost 3 months, who I thought I was never going to connect with again. I thought we were done. And it fucking ruined me inside not because I felt like I couldn't live without her, I was dependent, any of these things. These are kind of like early stage things that you go through as a man. But having come through that, it was more the fact that I destroyed something which was good. I destroyed something which it had taken me 10, 15 years of growth within myself to finally be able to have a relationship of that quality. And then I just turned around and destroyed it. That was what hurt the most. That was what broke my heart on a deep level. And so I saw her today and everything was different. I've changed. There's no longer this compulsion to get her approval. There's no longer this compulsion to have sex. There's just this ability to be with her, to enjoy her presence, to laugh, to have fun. This will give you your life back in ways you can't imagine. Things that you never thought were possible before will start to become not only possible, but they'll just start happening. I set this intention to start a community. Probably about a month in after I started making the videos, I realized I need to start a community. We need to start talking as brothers. We need to start connecting. We need to start sharing more. Because what I'm seeing in the comments, the level of vulnerability that you guys are willing to give, the level of struggles, the challenges, the difficulties that come up, the demons that come up on this journey, we need to be able to share this with each other. We need to take this to all of the other men. And so I put that intention out there. I'm going to start a community. Threw around a few ideas, different names. And then someone messages me out of the blue and says, "You've got to start a Discord and I want to build it for you." Out of the blue. And at first I was like, I was thinking I should do it on School. I've mucked around with School before when I launched my coaching offer. Discord could be good. Leave it with me. And then about a month later I said, yeah, let's do it. I just opened myself to what was showing up. This is what I mean by the path gets presented to you. And so he started building it. He started building a Discord community. Brought on another one of his friends. These are people I don't even know who've just seen my content. Just brothers. And they build it. Now I've got a community. Launched it last night. I went to a cafe, I took my journal and I thought, I need to get clear on the intention for this community. What's this going to be about? What's the purpose of this? And I asked God, I said, what do you want to do through me? Because I didn't make this happen. I'm not the one who comes up with the ideas when I do these videos. They just come to me. I don't think about them. They just download into me. And what I felt God saying, what I felt as a knowing, not an audible voice of God saying, do this, like this. It was just a knowing that the community wasn't going to be about all this fancy shit. It was going to be just a place where we could talk openly. We could just talk with no bullshit. We could just be raw. That's what I felt God saying. There needs to be a space where we can just talk, where we can feel free to drop all the masks and reveal ourselves. All of it. And so I got this idea of creating like an open journal where we're basically putting in a journal entry, but we're putting it in front of hundreds of brothers who can see it and realize that what you're going through is exactly what they're going through, and that they're not alone. That we're all going through the same shit. In the Word of God, it says, nothing afflicts you but that which is common to man, common to all men. In other words, there are no challenges that you face except those which we all face. We're all going through the same thing. I read a journal entry by one of the brothers this morning who was talking about this feeling of emptiness which he feels so strongly that he needs to fill with validation from women. Talking about how he doesn't even need to have sex with women, but it's like he feels this need to have a roster of 6 or 7 women who he's texting just to get that dopamine, just to get that validation, to get that reassurance that he is important, significant, worthy, valuable, secure. That's what it is on the deepest level. And so when I read that, I was like, bro is going through the exact same shit that I go through. This is the power of coming together, of sharing our souls with each other. This is where we get the breakthrough, the freedom, the growth. It's not in doing fancy programs and all this elaborate personal development processes and breakthroughs, and where the true value lies as men is when we come together and we share. We share with a circle of brothers. We take off the mask. We tell it like it is. So not only did God build the community for me, He also showed me exactly how to do it. We already got something like 10 members in the first day. This is the first time I've actually spoken about it to promote it. And I just feel that God's doing it through me. This isn't about me. This is about what God's doing through us. So everything's just happening for me, through me. It's like I'm just in this stream now. I'm just getting carried down a stream of destiny. God's resolving and healing my relationship, which I thought was done for. He's giving me the opportunity to serve in a way that feels truly meaningful. And if I look back, he's been preparing me for years for this. Just chipping away at my character, weeding out habits, patterns. God will do it all through you. You just got to keep surrendering. That's all he asks. You just got to do that which you know in your heart you need to do. No one needs to tell you what you need to do. You already know. You don't need to come and watch these videos to hear anything new. You already know. It's a good reminder. But you already know what you need to do. You just got to do it. I love you guys.